In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to animate vertices, and you can do this with meshes as well as curves. In this example, we're going to be using curves, and hope you enjoy this tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share, it means a lot. And before we begin, I'm going to open up a new Blender file, but before we get into that, let me just show you a bit more information about what is going on in our scene. The main thing to pay attention to is this circle over here. Let me zoom out. Hopefully you can still see it. It's where the mouse is at. If I press spacebar, you can see that when it's moving, it scales the size of those circles. And then when I deform it, it deforms those circles into all sorts of interesting shapes. Anyways, let's get straight into it. First thing you want to do is open up a new Blender file, press numpad 7 for top orthographic view, press X to delete, and then press Shift A, and we are going to use a curve. Don't worry if you don't see all these curves available to you, you will see the circle curve. It should still be there, it's default of Blender. Then you're going to press GX-2, boom, and we're going to name this Object 1. And we're going to create a new collection for all our objects over here. And all I did is right click and I click new collection, and yeah. Anyways, Shift A curve, another circle, GX2, call this Object 2, chuck it into collection 2, Shift A, another curve, circle curve, GY2, call this Object 3, chuck it in here, Shift A, another curve, Object 4, GY-2. And then finally, in our core collections, we want to add a final curve, and this curve is the most important curve. It's another circle curve, but we're going to press GX10. So it's separated from those four curves. And we're going to call this Bezier circle, we're going to call this our animation curve. All the animation will happen because of this curve. Right, now before we begin, let's select our first object and go to the object data properties for this curve and select the geometry and then click on object. And inside of object, you want to, in the object section here, you want to select the animation curve. And at the moment it looks like a fat donut. And we could actually animate this fat donut to make it thick or small. The first thing you want to do is select your animation curve over here. And we want to press S to scale, and you want to maybe move it to a size that you like. I'm going to make it 0.2. So it looks just like that. And it's the right thickness for me anyways. And we could, animating the full animation curve with all its verts, that's just animating the size of it, of the entire mesh or curve. That we can do that already. But what you can't do in Blender is animate the, what do you call it, the vertices, and I'll show you how to do that. The first thing you want to do is press Edit, Preferences, go to Add-ons, and then type in Anim, and find AnimAll. And you want to click on this, save it, so that you have access to this. Once you've got this, when you press N, you'll notice a new menu appear called Animate. And over here it will show you on the top, AnimAll. And now you can select point, and you can animate specific points. Now before we move on, let's quickly select these other objects and make sure that we've got the animation curve on them as well before we start going absolutely crazy. Right, so I'm quite happy with that. The final thing I want to add to this scene over here is a parent. Shift A. If you don't know what a parent is, let me explain. So we're going to use a plane axis, and we're going to call this our parent rotation empty. I'm trying to be descriptive when I use these words. With the parent rotation empty, well, I'm going to first select the object 1, hold in shift, and then select the other 3 objects. And then finally, lastly, select the parent rotation empty in the middle here. You want to make sure that the parent rotation empty is light orange and everything else is dark orange. Once you've done that, you can press Control P, and you can parent all these spheres to this object. And what that means is, much like the sun is the parent to our planet and the moon, the earth is the parent to the moon. In other words, the moon is the child because it moves with the earth's gravitation. Now when we move with the rotation of our parent rotation over here, if we press R, Z and rotate this, it moves the other objects, which is quite nice for that spinning effect. Right, now that we've done that, we've got everything set up and we can start animating. So first, normally the old-fashioned way of animating, just so that you know, is that we would select our object we want to animate. In this case, it's the animation curve. And we would say, you know what, on keyframe 1, on our timeline over here, if you can see it, we want it to look exactly like this in size. So we'd press I. And we'd say location, rotation, or scale. In this case, we're going to use scale. And then we'll say, okay, well, we want it to grow by 60. And then we'll say S to scale this up, and we might go 5. And then we'd press I and click scale. And then we'd go back to keyframe 1, and we can watch that animate and grow and scale. The problem with this is that you're animating the mesh and not the vertices, so you can't really deform the mesh nicely. You can only really move it around, move its location, make it rotate, and scale it. It's not really great. So I'm going to just press X and delete all these keyframes. So I've got no more keyframes, and I'm going to press S, and I'm just going to scale this to 0.2, so it's back to where it was. And I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. And at the moment, there's 4 vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I can select all of them, it's fine. I'm going to zoom out so you can see what we're doing with the shape. We are in edit mode. That is the crucial component here. And I'm going to press N, click on Animate, expand AnimAll, make sure point is selected, and I'm going to insert a keyframe. Once I've done that, I'm going to go to keyframe 60. And now I'm going to say, you know what? I want to move this G, X, and maybe we move it to about there. GX2. No, -2. And then I might say, let insert again. You can't press I anymore, you have to insert it because this isn't something that's intuitive. And then we go to 120 and we say, you know what, we want it to go back to the original spot, so we're going to press GX2 and we click insert. And then we're going to say, you know what, at 150, now we're going to mess with some of the deformations. We're going to now mess with a single vertices, this one over here. Zoom out, and I'm going to press G, Y, and I'm just going to lift this up until I get a shape that I like, GY4. Insert. Let's go type in 180. And then we might go G, and we might just grab this until we get a shape or design that we like. Okay, I quite like that, so I'm going to press Insert, and then I'm going to go to 210. It's 25 to 30 frames is 1 second, just so that you know. Right, with this selected, I can now press G, move this along, and I'll press Insert. And we go to 240, I can press G, and you can kind of find a design that you like. You can play around with this. And by the way, it doesn't have to be flat. You could actually make it in any dimension that you like. Insert, and then finally I'm going to take this back to where it was at 250. And we'll just go G, bring it all the way back here, zoom in. I believe that is the spot more or less, and then I just say insert. Alright, and just like that, and by the way, you can always expand this by increasing the end and animating it more than what we've done. Now we go back to keyframe 1 and we press spacebar and we watch this. So we get this interesting shape, it goes back in on itself like it's some sort of trippy thing, and then we get these interesting designs and shapes, and you can choose an angle that you most like. But just to take it one step further, to bring this to life, I believe it would look a lot more interesting if it was rotating. So that's what we'll do. I'm going to press numpad 1. Now I'm going to select the parent rotation empty. I'm going to go to keyframe 1. I'm going to press I. Oh, press tab to go into object mode. I do apologize. Parent rotation empty, keyframe 1. Press I, and I'm going to select rotation. And let's go to 120. We're going to make this rotate. Press R. I'm going to type in 720 so it rotates twice. Press I, rotation, and then 180. I'm going to press R to rotate this again. This time I'm going to go to 360. I'm going to press I, rotation, and then finally at 250, I'm going to press R to rotate, 720 again. I'm going to press I, rotation, and if we go to the beginning, now we've got this. Alright, now we need to add the textures to this. Right, that's the next step. I'm going to press numpad 7, shift A, mesh, plane, S20, and we're going to go to our material viewport for the moment. Give it a second to load. And in our material viewport, the first thing we want to do is select these objects. So all you have to do is add a decent material to this. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial so far. Please give me a thumbs up. I do really appreciate those. I'm going to make this 0.1 on glossy and select the next object. We will choose glossy again, put this on 0.1, and we're going to make this gold, I guess, and we'll choose the next object. And you know what, let's go crazy. Let's make this animation. And give it a strength of 5. And select the next object. Give this animation. Strength of 5. And next thing I want to do is just change from EV to cycles. You can use EV, this is all personal preference. I just like cycles. And change to render view. It's interesting. Okay, cool. Now I'm cool with that. And then finally, just for this over here, we want to make sure it's white. And then add an environmental texture so things really pop. I believe I downloaded one from Polyhaven, free place to download HDR images. And you can view this now. Go to the camera view, find an angle that you like. Control Alt numpad 0. Select the camera, press G to grab and move the camera, and there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and now you know how to animate using vertices. See you in the next one.